My name is Lou Snikoff. I'm an ACP Wellbeing Champion and a past governor and past president in the New York chapter, and a member of the Chapter Wellbeing Committee. Dr. Corey Salvett will be introducing our speaker this evening. Dr. Salvett is also an ACP Wellbeing Champion. She is one of the co-founders and co-directors of our Small Feedings of the Soul, which is a wildly successful program that we've had for a couple of years now. And our next session of that is tomorrow evening at 7, so feel free to join us. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Salvett.
Thanks for the nice introduction. Welcome, everybody. As Dr. Snikoff said, I'm Corey Salvett. I'm an ACP Wellbeing Champion, and my day job involves taking care of hospitalized cancer patients at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and I also direct our transitional year residency program. So we had a very exciting match not too long ago. It is an honor to introduce our speaker tonight, Dr. Marty Muntz. He's coming to us from the Medical College of Wisconsin. And I've had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Muntz for quite some time, since we collaborated together many years ago on the Clerkship Directors of Internal Medicine. And I had the pleasure of hearing him speak about exactly a year ago about this similar topic, and was on my to-do list to get him to come and speak for us for the ACP Wisdom and Wellbeing series. Dr. Muntz is the Associate Dean for Curriculum at the School of Medicine at Medical College of Wisconsin. He's also the Vice Chair for Faculty Development. He's currently a Professor of Medicine and practices general internal medicine as well. He's the past President of Clerkship Directors in Internal Medicine. I promised him I wouldn't read the whole long bio so that we could get right into the meat of his talk, because he's got a lot to share with us tonight. And there will be an opportunity for some audience participation through the chat. And also, if there are questions, feel free to put that in the chat as well. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Muntz. Thank you. And thank you so much for everybody for being here. And if you have time in your schedule, please join us tomorrow night for Small Feedings of the Soul. I'm facilitating, and it's going to be a fun one.
Thank you for that, Dr. Salvett and Dr. Snikoff. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see the slides? Okay, great, thank you. So it's great to be here. I'm grateful for Corey for inviting me. And I hope this hits the mark with people. I know these well-being, I'm a former well-being champion for the Wisconsin chapter myself, and I know how personal and individualized well-being can be. So hopefully this feels right to you all as well. So I'm going to talk about psychological safety and character and how I see them as essential ingredients for teamwork and for joy in my practice. And as Corey said, I'm a general internist. I do primary care. I'm also an educator and a former clerkship director. So most of what I talk about is going to be related to how we introduce these concepts in our clinical learning environments. But I just want to make the point up front that this applies to teams everywhere, regardless of what types of teams you're working on, whether it's medical education or a hospital-based team or a clinic-based team or teams in your outside of work life. Hopefully you'll find something to take away from this. So these are my objectives. I want to, hopefully by the end, we can all discuss psychological safety and how important it is in our diverse work and learning environment. We can discuss some realized and missed opportunities for psychological safety to help us achieve our shared goals in our teams, and consider some strategies to encourage our team members to live out their character and for us to recognize and report on the sorts of behaviors that we value on our teams. So I want this to be interactive as much as possible. I know Zoom kind of stinks for that, but these are my kids. Danny's on the left here. He's a theater nerd and he's playing Tevye here and Fiddler on the Roof. And our daughters are standing, Erin and Lainey are standing outside of Wicked trying to recreate the poster here on Broadway. But I'm hoping that you can use social media to be interactive. Tag me and tag the New York ACP. Email me. Corey's got my information if you all need it, and I can try to leave it in the chat at the end as well. And then hallway, I know we're not sharing hallways all the time, but I'll be in Austin for Academic Medicine Week for the program directors and clerkship director types that are on the call here. And who knows, we might share hallways at some point as well. I'm happy to chat about this stuff and really thinking about what resonates for you. What sorts of things are you taking away? I'd love to have those sorts of conversations in whatever way that we can. So maybe we'll start with just having people put 1 or 2 words in the chat about what are some ingredients for joy on teams that they work with. I'll just do like 30 seconds here, but just go ahead, go for it. Laughter, clear communication, trust, mission, shared common mission stuff. Love that. Fair distribution of work. Camaraderie. All right, you can keep going here, but I love this stuff. All right, so this is great, and I'm hopefully going to make the case that psychological safety is important for all these things to shine through, and naming these sorts of things is really important. Naming our values so we can identify and recognize and celebrate when we're seeing that sort of stuff come through. And just the ingredients thing is kind of a play on words, but I'm going to say a couple of things about myself tonight and a couple of things that have kind of helped me, survive through COVID here and the changes that we've all had to go through. But it was St. Patrick's Day in 2020, and the first day of our lockdowns here, and the day that we pulled our medical students out of our clinical learning environments. I walked out on my porch that morning, and there was a package for me. There was a 6-pack of local craft beer and this jar that contained what I found out to be sourdough starter. And I am not a baker, have never been, but that inspired me to try something different and think about what should I do with some of this extra time to take my mind off of the things that were driving me crazy. And I became a baker in the last few years, hopefully some of these things look reasonably good. This thing in the middle, these 2 loaves of bread are breads that I baked with a different recipe just the other day. Thinking thoughtfully through the types of ingredients, the types of recipes, the rules to follow has kind of helped me, hopefully, I think, be more intentional with what I value at work and on my teams as well. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense here. This book, if you haven't read it, I would strongly recommend it. It's a quick read. It doesn't feel like work to me, and it was honestly, for me and my work, life-changing. Dr. Edmondson at Harvard Business School is the world's expert on psychological safety. The book is very anecdotal, and it seemed very real and important for the type of work that I'm doing. Dr. Janie Sangavi was a medical student when I started to implement this work at Medical College of Wisconsin. She helped with developing the lectures and engaging our student body. When we started doing this work with our medical students on psychological safety and character, it was all an add-on. So I had to beg, borrow, and plead for some time with medical students at that point. I wasn't the associate dean for curriculum, and so I had to kind of ask friends, but we kind of did this as an add-on, which we all know is never great for teaching core topics that we think are really important. But what we have done over time is we're launching a new curriculum this next year called the MCW Fusion Curriculum, where we have turned this work that we've been doing on professional development, psychological safety, character, and such into actual meaningful longitudinal parts of the curriculum. We have a longitudinal character and professional development thread. We have something called spiral weeks, where in between their organ system-based units and in between their clerkships, they're going to have a little bit of decompression time to think about their individualized personal professional development and do deeper dives into those quote unquote soft skills or soft topics that we all know are really hard and really important for medicine. And we've also built in our learning communities to help support students through this sort of thing. So really, I feel proud that we've been able to kind of get the stuff to be meaningful ingredients in our curriculum. I use reflection with our students, and I'm hoping that you all are going to reflect with me a little bit tonight. But when I talk with about students with reflection, I recognize with them that I would be rolling my eyes if I were a student hearing about reflection, because I didn't believe in this sort of thing. I wanted you to tell me what I needed to know for the exam, and I wanted you to tell me what was going to be on the test, and I wanted to memorize it and then be able to answer those questions correctly. But hopefully I get through to them that this metacognitive process that is essential for lifelong learning, and that what we do in these sessions with the students, guided reflection and group reflection exercises, will help us learn from each other, broaden our exposure, and really strengthen our community of practice together, with the end goal being that we learn by reflecting actually more than we learn from the events that we're reflecting on when they're actually in the moment. And that's really important for us to take the time to reflect from these difficult experiences that we go through. And so the goals of my reflective narratives with the students are learning, about self, about others, and thinking about how might I do something different. And then I take what they tell me and turn it into faculty development, turn it into residence as teacher sessions, and help improve our our work and learning environment together. And I always promise them writer anonymity and that their words and experiences matter. And then I'll take all what they write down seriously, and we'll use it for good for them, for patients, and for future students that come through our program. And I always start these sessions with our code of conduct, and I'm sure you all have a code of conduct at your places. I don't know if everybody's ever opened them up or searched them and read them, but I read these to the students, and I ask them at the beginning, think about how this describes your experience so far in medical school. So we have a code of conduct that says we're committed to providing safe workplace and learning environment, that we have this caring, healthy, respectful culture. There's no harassments, threats, or acts of violence anywhere. These are our pillars: professionalism, excellence, and magnanimity. We seek and embrace the diversity of people and perspectives and value each member of our community. And this is what we say about our learning environment. Our environment honors the dignity of all who study, train, and work at MCW as follows. We listen to all voices with openness to multiple and diverse points of view. We resolve conflicts with spirit of civility, strive to be aware of our biases, and respond with curiosity and positive engagement with others. And we practice equity when we support the development and advancement of members of our MCW community. So what do you think they say about current state? I see some head shaking no here to this. And you're right. I mean, I see some eye rolls. I hear some laughter sometimes. And I think this is an opportunity, for me to say out loud to them that that we're clearly not there all the time, 100%. I take the opportunity to say that I think that it's better than it was 20 years ago when I was starting my residency. And that I think we're getting better every day, but we're definitely not perfect, and we're not perfect all the time. And that every time people see things out there that doesn't follow these rules, it's not that we've got a bunch of bad humans on our teams. It's that we've got people in stressful situations, in a lack of sleep, in difficult sorts of times. Something bad may be happening at home. And to remember to give each other grace and remember to give each other feedback, and hopefully that we're all going to be striving to kind of reach this perfect state at some point. It doesn't mean that I should be making excuses for bad actors, people that have patterns of behavior that go against this, but just to, again, bring that humility back to our group here. Okay, so what about psychological safety then? What's this ingredient of psychological safety? This means that this is the belief that the work environment is safe for interpersonal risk-taking. We trust the safety of speaking up when we have relevant ideas, questions, or concerns. We have respect for the team respect for other teams, respect for each other, and respect for our shared vision, our common goal. People put that in the ingredients chat here at the beginning. When psychological safety is present and we understand it and we believe in it, we feel obligated to be candid and to candidly disagree with each other, even our leaders, even people that are the attendings on the team, our division chiefs or section chiefs or whatever that may be, our hospital administrators or whatever. We feel obligated to candidly disagree with each other. And we're focused together on achieving our shared goals that we've co-created rather than self-protection or, in medical students, impression management, grade getting. And we can focus on those sorts of things together. And this fosters an engagement beyond what we often will see, and a belonging, feeling of belonging on the team and mattering on the team that is really important for optimal outcomes. We also know how important meaningful and actionable feedback is, and we seek it and we work hard to apply it. There are many benefits to a situation where psychological safety is present. There are learning benefits. So if we're willing to speak up and share our knowledge and ask questions, even when our confidence is less, we can get correction, we can get feedback, we can learn different perspectives and a little bit more deeply in those situations. We're all going to make mistakes anyway. So if we identify them and own up to them and seek feedback on our mistakes, we'll learn from them, and we'll make more mistakes when we're supervised, and hopefully make fewer errors over time. There are benefits for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diverse teams perform better when psychological safety is present, and we are able to attract more diverse employees over time. If we get a reputation of being a psychologically safe team, people want to work with us and work on our teams, which is a good thing. And then there's that feeling of mattering, of belonging, of a feeling of I am part of this team and I will do what needs to be done for this team. What about performance? I think our students care about this a lot. Again, I can tell them all I want, but they still want to get honors on their clerkships, I think. So I tell them that, yes, performance is important because we're providing patient care and we want excellent care for our patients. So we clearly want there to be high quality work on our team. Hopefully we can avoid workarounds that are necessary in our complex situations, but could be streamlined. And when, again, students perk their ears up with this one, when it's been shown in the business world over and over again that when psychological safety is present with you and your supervisor, your individual performance assessments improve over time. It's not just that people want to be nice to you and give you high grades. It's because you're actually doing better, because you've identified your weaknesses, you learn from your failures, and you're correcting those and moving on and being better over time. There's more innovative work when psychological safety is present. People are not afraid to bring up the crazy idea that's been rattling around in the back of their head about, why we can't hit our goals with length of stay or whatever it is that are our metrics, and we bring those crazy ideas to life. And then I don't want, I want people to be engaged and feeling passionate about their work and committed to the team, and willing to put in discretionary effort into their work. I don't want people to be coming early and staying late and all that sort of stuff. We know that that's not what we're after all the time, but we all know the difference when somebody is able to put that little extra effort in and go back and round on their patient one more time before they go home, or help each other out with the tasks that are important for the team. And we see this stuff kind of come to life on teams that are psychologically safe. For those of you who haven't read Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck, that's another quick read that I'd recommend that really fits nicely with growth mindset. And I use this slide to kind of help knock it or bring it home with the students here. And I tell them that for fixed mindset, I have never, ever one time had a student, a resident, or a team member of mine come to me and say, I believe that my intelligence is inherent and static. It's locked down. My potential was determined at birth and will never change. Never. But I absolutely see these behaviors that fall into fixed mindset place where people not avoid failure, because you can't avoid failure, but avoid owning up to it and avoid doing a debrief on their failures, desiring to look smart. Students avoid taking challenging patients or picking up challenging tasks, stick to what they know because they want to get that grade. They take feedback and criticism personally, and therefore they limit their ability to change or improve. And so we try to kind of get them over with psychological safety into this growth mindset area where they're embracing challenge, they're seeking feedback, they're applying that feedback and seeking reevaluation over time with their teams. And again, I'm talking about students here, medical students, but this could be your team that you're leading at work or again, outside of work as well. All right, so I said that we were going to do a little bit reflection too, right? This is my first time to stop and do reflection. So this sounds great, all right, but why don't all team members speak up then when they're on our teams if they identify a need for improvement? The patient's plan is different than what they thought we should be doing, what they read about, when they witness inappropriate behaviors on our teams. What are team members risking if they embrace psychological safety? And so what I want you to do is we'll do 2 minutes. I want you to write something in the chat, but don't hit send yet. Write something, think about it, and I'll set the timer for about 90 seconds here. And then I'll say hit send and we'll read through these things. All right, yeah, go ahead and hit send. We got a few people putting them in here. Go for it. Worry about what attendings or colleagues think about them as a potential weakness, scared of repercussions, insecurity, feel of failing or not appearing as smart. We've got a lot of imposter syndrome in our students, residents, faculty, practicing docs, team members, vulnerability, fear of not being respected or accepted or heard, reaction from supervisors or people in power, feel like they have nothing of value to contribute, exposure, vulnerability, rejection, to waste the time of the group. Oh, I see that. I hear that a lot from students. Yeah. I love this stuff. All right, you guys are right on here. So this is really great stuff. So retaliation or some idea that at some point something that they're going to say is going to come back to hurt them. They know they've got residency applications coming up soon, or they know that they're going to be asking for a promotion or whatever it is, and there are always potential repercussions that they're worried about. All right, good. And this is what the students tell us too. You all are right online here. So a little bit more on psychological safety. What's it not? So it is not these terrible, awful things that have no place in our learning environment, obviously, but it's also, I get a lot of people initially when they first hear me talk or hear about psychological safety, they say, boy, back in my day, this was not an issue and we all turned out okay. Or back in my day, it was hard, and that's what made me such a great doc. And I don't want to take that away from our learners or whatever it is. Or somebody's got to be the sheriff around here or something. Well, psychological safety is not. I want to be really clear. It's not lowered expectations or standards. It's not making everything easy. It's not heaping unequivocal praise on people for no reason. And it's not unconditional support for everything somebody says or does. I clearly can't agree if somebody that is having a massive GI bleed that we should be continuing their anticoagulation through that in most situations if somebody says it on the team. So clearly we can't be supportive of everything that somebody brings up on rounds. And this nice 2x2 table from the book it kind of identifies it. And when I show this to students, and I'll ask you all to kind of think of, did you ever have a team like this in each of these sections? So what is a team that has low psychological safety, but also low standards or minimal expectations here? And that can lead to apathy, lack of engagement, why am I here sort of stuff. What about low psychological safety, but high standards or high expectations? I think our students identify places like this on our clerkships for sure. That can lead to a lot of anxiety, can lead to people hiding and withdrawing from those sorts of teams, finding other things that they need to do to get away from the team. What about high psychological safety, but low expectations or low standards? We have places like this too. It feels nice sometimes. It's a nice breather. It feels good to be respected and not have a whole lot of expectations. And maybe it's comfortable for a little bit, but we also know that we want to put those high expectations and standards in there so we can really get into that high performance and learning zone for our teams. When we're really humming as a team, we're safe, but we're also clearly expecting a lot of all of our members. As leaders, and I know you all are leaders, but as leaders of our teams, we have a role to play in this. We're not the only ones that create psychological safety. It's a team phenomenon. But at the same time, as leaders, it's really important for us to set the stage for this. And I'll start with this clear expectations piece. I'll just say in a couple of minutes what I might have said a couple of years ago when I was doing awards still on award teams on the first day of a team that I'm picking up. And think maybe while I'm doing this about what you might say on the first day of your time with the team as a leader. So it's great to be together on this team. I'm so excited to work with you all. I grew up playing sports and understanding the importance of teams and how everybody has a role to play and how it's important that we all bring our best every day to work. And so I'm excited to have you be a part of this with me. I want you to know that I got your back and that I hope you all have my back, and we're all here to support each other and to help each other out and to achieve our shared goals. If we want to do excellent work, taking care of patients, learning together, I need you all to be engaged, paying attention on rounds, or picking up on when things are being difficult. If we're suggesting, for example, assessment and plans that are not what you expected, that you've read something differently, that you've heard something differently, that you've seen it done differently on different teams, I want you to speak up and bring your lived experience and bring what you've heard from others to the table. I promise you, I do not know everything. There's no way that I could, and I definitely do not have a crystal ball. I learned so much whenever I'm attending on wards. And in order to do that, I need you to be willing to bring new ideas to what I'm talking about here. You're going to learn a million pet peeves and idiosyncrasies from me over time. You'll probably be sick of it by the time we're done together, but I really truly have 3 guiding principles for this team. So if we follow these 3 general rules, we're all going to do great. Number one, we are going to take excellent care of patients. It's got to be our North Star. It's got to be our primary function here. And when all else fails, this is what we're going to fall back on. Number two, we are going to do loads of teaching and learning together. I'm going to learn from you. You all are going to learn from me. I ask a lot of questions to teach. This is not pimping or me trying to belittle anyone or anything like that. It's me to try to find where your previous knowledge is, where your gaps are, and where I can be most efficient with my time teaching. So if I ask you questions, it's not mean-spirited at all. It's me teaching. So please understand that. And number three, we are going to have fun together, whether you like it or not. We're going to be spending a lot of time together. I know this is stressful work, but I want us to enjoy each other. I want us to get to know each other, and to feel like we're learning from and with each other. That's it. That took like 3 minutes, and you can do that quickly with your teams as well. It's important to do on day one. It's important to do when new team members join. It's important to do periodically to kind of restate the expectations, I think. And that's kindness for sure. In addition to setting the expectations, we leaders have to walk the walk then, right? We have to be approachable and accessible. When people do find their voice, we have to respond productively to it. Again, this is not unequivocal praise, agreeing with everything that everybody says all the time, but we have to kind of, even when people say things that are not the right thing in the situation, we have to turn those into teachable moments. We have to certainly listen to folks and re-examine our role in whatever conflict might be going on as well. We want to empower good people to do good work on our teams, and we want to give kudos as much as possible and in front of as many people as possible. I like to give kudos in front of patients all the time, especially when patients thank me. They always want to thank me. You know, my clinic, it's like, I've been working with the same patients a lot of times for many years, and they want to thank me for everything. And I want to give credit to the team in front of the team as much as I can. And in front of the team, I want to give credit to individuals that are doing good work. And I don't want people to be failing all the time. Obviously, failing in medicine is bad, but what I do want to make clear with the team is that it's much safer to fail with supervision and on a team when people can identify the opportunities for improvement from it, and we can all get better from that sort of thing. So I want to make sure that people are as much as possible celebrating their failures together. It is important, though, just to be clear, that we're holding people accountable for those guiding principles. If people are not responding to feedback, if people are continuing to make the same mistakes, that's important to hold them accountable, both for safety of patients and also for the accountability of the team and the ability of the team to continue to function appropriately. All right, so maybe reflection exercise 2, and we can put this in the chat as well, a sentence or two about maybe how now knowing maybe a little bit about psychological safety, if you haven't known before, looking back, how have you helped create psychological safety on teams that you've been on before? Or alternatively, how did I threaten psychological safety on previous teams that I've been on? Or maybe an idea about how you'll help create psychological safety on your team or teams going forward. And we can just go ahead and we can have people just put them in the chat whenever they have a thought here. Let me take a couple of minutes. Holding people accountable without risking the people that are on our teams, anticipating making mistakes and asking help and finding them. Dan, like this is great, and saying it out loud. I'm going to screw up. I want people to show that to me when it happens, and we have even an attending on one of our services who's won Teacher of the Year a couple of times, who says, I'm going to intentionally say the wrong thing at least one time today on rounds, and whoever identifies it and points it out to me gets the gold, gets a piece of candy or whatever they got going on there. So listening to patients and staff, frequent check-ins, getting a team to introduce themselves, sharing personal stories of examples when I messed up. I love that, like demystifying that failure stuff. Good. Apologizing. You all know, I hope, how powerful apologies from leaders are, right? Definitely for the people that are lower on that power hierarchy on our teams. Meg, I love this. I used to do the same thing, right? And then I realized that I was, if people felt like they're where they are or were from was less than, then they might feel threatened with that sort of thing. So I ask now people to share something about themselves that other people might not know. So I kind of leave it. I don't want to tell people to where they went to med school or where they went to undergrad or where they grew up or any of that sort of stuff, because I think that was potentially problematic for people sometimes. All right, good stuff. All right, thanks for that. All right, I'm going to switch gears real quick. Okay, one of the other things that that has kind of brought me joy since COVID was being a little bit more with nature. I spent more days working from home, obviously, than I ever had before. And I found out that I love to watch birds. And that's very nerdy and old manish for me, but that's fine. And I want to kind of bring this to recognize and appreciate here. On this slide, I've got 3 different kinds of Wisconsin woodpeckers. We got red-bellied woodpeckers on the left. They do not have red bellies, by the way, even though they're red-bellied woodpeckers. On the slide in the middle, we've got 2 woodpeckers in that slide. The smaller one is a downy woodpecker. The larger one is a hairy woodpecker. They look almost exactly the same, except their size. They've got little tufts of red on their head. They got these white bellies and black and white wings. And then on the picture on the right is they're both hairy woodpeckers. One is an adult male that's on that's got its back to us, and the other one is an adolescent that's being fed by the adult here. So what am I talking about here with these birds? I just realized that taking time and being thoughtful about like what was going on in front of me kind of helped me observe better on my teams, helped me kind of understand what was important on the teams. If I wanted to tell the different birds apart, I had to kind of pay more attention and to kind of figure out what were the distinguishing factors. And so I just found myself hopefully more willing to recognize things that made individuals on my team stand out, to be able to verbalize those and write them in evaluations, but also to say them out loud in front of the team, especially things that I value. So I can kind of recognize that, celebrate it, and hopefully people can know that they want to do those things more. So one of those things that I found wanting to have language around is character. And I, about 5 years ago, I had been clerkship director for 7 or 8 years, and I had the opportunity to move into something at MCW called the Kern Institute for Transformation of Medical Education. This was made possible by a generous gift from a family foundation in our area, and we were able to recruit one of your former ranks, Dr. Adina Kallett from NYU, to come and lead our Kern Institute in Milwaukee. And we got to work on things like character. What does that mean in medical education? And caring, what does that really mean? in medical education, and I got to do work on this sort of thing and think about how character was related to professionalism and how we could teach this and assess it in different ways. So people smarter than me got together and put together a definition of character. And basically, this is a complex constellation of psychological characteristics that motivates us. These are developmentally dependent and contextually formed over time, so you can teach and learn these things. And then character manifests in dispositions or practices or behaviors, which are influenced by the situation and valued according to the social-cultural context. So our environment plays a big role in how people's character manifests. Psychological safety being one of those ways that you can encourage people to live their character. And then we in the Kern Institute and the Kern National Network aim to nurture authentic expressions of good character in medicine, basically, that help to help us care for patients and each other. Oh, what about my role was really to kind of, how do we then teach this stuff to students? And my area was the clinical learning environment. So when how do we teach it? It's complicated. There's no right way to do this, but we started with this with a few character traits that are listed here, and we thought there's no right or wrong answers to which character traits are most important in medicine. But these are the ones that we started with, and we kind of used the analogy of crayons here. And I don't know if for those of you who went to kindergarten in the United States, most of us were asked to bring these primary colors to kindergarten, and I was always envious of the people that had the big 64 box of crayons with the sharpener on it, and some people would bring those and break the rules. But there's nothing that says courage and compassion are more important than love, honesty, and curiosity in the learning environment. But we had, like I said, we had to start somewhere anyway. So these are the ones that we chose here. And teaching character to medical students or to other members of our team, we decided that we were going to start slow. And so we used these crayons, these character traits, and we gave them very simple scenarios. We told them, courage might be useful here and trustworthiness here. And so when students do these case-based exercises at the beginning, we find that almost everybody thinks kind of the same way and gets the same answer. It's easy to fill in the blanks when you're told which blanks you fill in with which colors. Then we give them more progressively difficult exercises, and most people know who this is and what colors you're supposed to use to color him. And so still most students, colorings here would be similar, but there might be some subtle differences. It's harder to stay in the lines here, maybe. And so people start to show a little bit of differences from person to person here. And then we launch them out into seeing patients, and we know that our learning environments and our patient care scenarios are very complicated. And if I said, go ahead and color this, everybody's picture is going to be different at the end, and that's okay. It's an important lesson for us to learn, both as teachers and as students, to say there's a million different ways to do this. There's no right or wrong answer. We're not always dealing with multiple choice exams. And so we want you to bring your best self to these sorts of problems and to kind of think creatively and to live your character in the moment. And we call these things character moments. And so we ask students about their character moments all the time. What are they noticing? What are they recognizing? What do they want to do better? With the idea that none of us is perfect and there's no right way to do this sort of stuff. So hopefully it resonates with them. And I make the case with them that character and professionalism are important parts of the same construct. So if character is our internal characteristic and motivation, we use something in the moment, in these character moments, called practical wisdom in a split second to decide which trait to bring to the situation and how much of each trait is needed. You can all I'm sure think of a scenario where 100% courage is not the right thing to do in that situation, or 100% honesty is not the right thing to do in that situation. And so we talk about dialing things up and back in the moment and using the right character traits in the right moment here. And then what comes out of those character moments is what I see as professionalism. It's our outward manifestations of our character. We can fake it in a like an OSCE or in a simulated patient scenario maybe once, or in a something that we write, but not consistently. And over time, you know, we find our character and we live it, and we can practice and learn. And we're not doing just the bare minimum. We're being our authentic selves in the clinical learning environment. So, and we ask students to reflect on how individual character traits manifest in order to try to build these ideas, these shared mental models of these character traits. So then we can recognize them and we can write about them. We can give people their feedback using these character terms. And we've started to do that a little bit in our learning environment. So this is what we ask students to consider: their character role models. How do they live their character when they've observed them? And then you know, we tell them that they can write about anybody. It doesn't have to be their attending or their senior or chief or whatever. It can be a patient. It can be a co-student. It can be a nurse on the team or something like that. And they really write these beautiful, thoughtful sorts of paragraphs about character in the learning environment. I want to share some of these, the themes that have come through for these character traits. So maybe you'll think about them when you're seeing one of your team members interact with a patient, and you'll say, wow, that was wonderful how you use cultural humility there by doing X, Y, and Z, or something like that. Okay, and these are some birds that I've taken pictures from. My workspace at home is right next to my window where I got my feeders, so I get a chance to snap pictures periodically as well. It's a scarlet tanager here. All right, what do students tell us about perseverance? They say when they recognize that people are doing the right thing in the face of many, many barriers. They talk about people who focus on longevity, consistency, big picture, and don't sweat the small stuff. They recognize their mistakes. They focus on improvement afterwards, this idea of failing forward. And they put aside distractions and do the best for each patient despite their barriers. So whatever happened in the patient before or the patient after, I'm here with this patient right now. They also write sometimes about some of the negative aspects of perseverance and talking about people giving up on patients or missing out on learning opportunities when things got tough as opportunities for improvement. This is a rose-breasted grosbeak on my sunflower feeder. What about humility? Students identify people that are grounded, modest, relatable, gracious. They're lifelong learners and are willing to change their practice and are transparent. They tell stories about how they used to think, but now I think. And now I used to do this, and now I do this. They're open to new ideas, even from folks that are lower on the power hierarchy, and they admit when they're wrong and they apologize, which, as we talked about before, can be quite powerful. They're still the authority, but they're approachable, and they're grateful, and they say out loud that they're grateful for the opportunities that they have doing the work that they're doing. And this comes through sometimes in small behaviors, holding the door, asking patients if they need a blanket or whatever patients may need. They also notice opportunities for improvement with arrogance, ego, and my way or the highway sort of stuff that sometimes they see. These are indigo buntings. They're all kind of puffed up after a cold rainstorm this past spring. All right, what about trustworthiness? Accountability, reliable, transparent, acting in good faith, and believable. They do what they say. They're the people that walk the walk. And they also notice that recognize that it's hard to rebuild trust after a breach. And they notice that when teams don't have trust or psychological safety, mistakes are more likely to be made and more likely to be not corrected. This is an eastern goldfinch. This is the state bird of Iowa where I grew up. And just to say, if you ever seen one of these birds, they have these beautiful looping flight patterns where they just kind of floop, floop, floop across the sky. And this guy landed right on my window bird feeder. Okay, equanimity. And this is something the students struggle with because it's not like a term that we use in real life all the time, but we know that it's really important. Osler talked about equanimity, right? We know it's important in medicine, so we want to make sure that students get a sense of what this is. And they recognize people who maintain their composure despite barriers. They're a calming presence for team, calming presence for patients. They may take a moment to compose themselves in difficult situations as opposed to rushing right in or rushing in to say something, say the next thing in the conversation. And they also recognize people who are labile and unpredictable as the negative side of this coin. This is a wild turkey in the fall in my backyard here. What about compassion? I think compassion is easily recognizable, kind and uplifting, sitting with suffering, taking time to get to know patients' stories, treating others like you thought you would when you started medical school before you became jaded, treating others like you want for your family members, developing those human connections and relating to colleagues and patients on personal and professional levels, investing their heart and soul in the work that they're doing. And again, we talked about the negatives here also, about labeling patients and talking behind patients' backs that sometimes unfortunately occurs on our services. And best for last, my favorite bird to watch. We have a great bunch of orioles that come to our feeders all summer long here. So amazing how different the different orioles look from each other. So I haven't gotten to the point where I'm naming them, so don't worry, I'm still not that crazy here. All right, what about courage in our role models? So students identify people that do the right thing regardless of cost. They speak up for patients despite any hierarchies. They go outside their comfort zones. They try new things. They admit their mistakes and work through them, debrief them. And they admit when things hurt, which can be very courageous, obviously. I found that to be especially true for people that are in junior leadership sorts of positions. And maybe it becomes easier over time, but wow, it's powerful when your leaders can do that sort of thing. And then I think students also recognize and identify to us that there are the flip sides of these, acting worn down, accepting less than what patients deserve or than what the team deserves, giving in when we shouldn't, and sometimes that happens for sure. So, I mean, I like I said, I've found myself after kind of working in this area for a while, being able to recognize these moments, these character moments, and the behaviors associated with character traits more readily. I'm able to speak these out loud to people when I'm giving feedback individually or when I'm giving kudos in front of patients or in front of the team. I use character trait language to do these things, and I started to write them in student and resident assessment forms and things like that. So I think we can probably skip the writing in the chat here, but I'm hoping you're able to take away some opportunities for recognizing character or other ingredients and joy in your team members and verbalizing that with them and the rest of the teams here too. So like in summary here, we talked about psychological safety, the idea that this is candor, productive disagreement, shared goals and learning. It's not about hitting the easy button for people. How important it is to set expectations on day one frequently and whenever new people join the team, and then to walk the walk. When you set the expectations, you got to live by them and respond productively when people find their voice. Also giving kudos and recognizing people that are doing a great job and participating on the team. And then hopefully you all are able to recognize and verbalize those sorts of things. That doesn't just bring, I should have said this earlier, but I think this brings joy to the people that are being recognized and when you're giving kudos to people. But also, I think to me brings joy because I see this sort of stuff that you're doing is why I'm in medicine. Like, I'm so happy that you're doing this sort of thing, and it kind of makes me happy when I'm recognizing the joy of and the character traits that are around me. And I know I told Amanda said that the Zoom's not going to end right at 7 here, so we can stick around. I got time to hang out if people want to talk more about this sort of stuff or ask questions, but This is another thing that brings me joy. I love baseball, and this is Wrigley Field on a beautiful summer day. I got there early to watch batting practice, and hoping to do that before too long again here. So please, happy to chat, and I'm going to stop sharing my slides so we can see each other's faces. Hey, Corey, you got your hand up. Please go for it.